everyone. That was Emma for a moment, and I'll give her a quick shout out. First and foremost, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If this is your first live stream, thank you for being here. If you're a returning viewer or even a listener, hey, you're cool. You know you're cool. And if you see me at a conference, you come up and let me know that you are cool. Anyhow, who am I? Who is this person talking to you? I am the magical, I think, Dark, Darkstar 7471, I guess, to give my full username. I'm John. I'm part of the wonderful community team here at Hack the Box. And today we have a really awesome event for everyone. This is the live stream for one of our pillar CTFs, our University CTF. I've gone ahead and I've linked that in chat. Let me go ahead and link it again. But we'll go over that in just a moment. There is the link. If you have not signed up, be sure to click on that. The University CTF, so the event itself for the CTF will start tomorrow on the 13th. It runs December 13th through December 15th. The time and date are actually on that page as well. This is the live stream for all the talks to go with it. And those talks are available. You can see them. Here we go. Let me post this. That is our tweet on X that has all of the talks listed. But I will go through that in a moment. Before we go through that, thank you everyone again for being here. Huge shout out again to Emma. Emma did a lot of hard work getting the stream set up, and she's behind the scenes running the show. I would not be able to do this without her, and I say that as hey, feel free to give her kudos and shout outs in the chat. She's the powerhouse that makes this happen. That being said, we have some awesome talks in front of us that have been prepared by some of my incredibly talented coworkers. And let's go ahead and talk about what we have coming up. First and foremost, why aren't you using your mic instead of the webcam mic? Didn't pick up my webcam mic. Are you kidding me? Hold on. It did. Thank you for letting me know about that. I will fix that. There we go. Yeah. Yeah. Better? Cool. I'm gonna guess this is better. Yeah. Could someone respond in the chat and just make sure you can hear me? It's worse? Okay. Give me just a moment. Thank you everyone for your patience. Yeah. There we go. I just need to lower my gain a little bit. I think it got bumped. Oh yeah, there we go. I moved my audio. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for letting me know. I will get that adjusted a little bit more. Awesome. Cool. Okay. Audio levels aside, thank you for letting me fix that. Thank you, everyone, for giving me the grace to get that fixed real quick. Much better. Awesome. Thank you. And thank you in chat for letting me know about that. My audio likes to do this with Discord too, where it thinks, yeah, I want my webcam mic. No, I absolutely do not. Yeah, let's go ahead and get back to where we were. Let's talk about the awesome talks we have coming up. It's going to be a lot of fun. So first and foremost, our first talk, just disable your webcam mic. Just don't do this to me. Don't. I probably should go through and hardware disable it. But anyhow, our first talk is by the incredible, the indomitable, Lorenzo, Faletra. Lorenzo, I apologize if I just butchered your last name, aka Palinuro. Lorenzo is the Parrot team leader. He is an incredible coworker. Honestly, I'm very excited to have him as a live talk. And here we go. We'll go through and real quick, I'm going to talk about the other talks, but then we'll go ahead and get started. After this, we'll have the server. Lorenzo's talk will be Your Contribution Matters, How Every Contribution Strengthens Open Source Projects. After that, we have a recorded talk from Emma, The Servers in Your Basement and You, Learning by Building. Following that, we have When Smart Assistants Are Dumb, a beginner's guide to misconfiguring LLMs, which is a really fun talk by Ryan Gordon. Following that, we have an introduction to applied secret sharing for key distribution. That is by Rasti, one of our content engineers, incredibly talented guy. That is going to be a very fun talk, and that's one that I anticipate watching later and just being able to break that down. And then last, but certainly not least, we have Let's Sherlock, Introduction to Blue Team Training by David Forsythe, aka 0xcf, who is our principal training architect at Hack the Box. Incredibly talented. If you haven't read his walkthroughs, definitely check those out before we get to the talk. But yeah, it's going to be great. That being said, I've left Lorenzo waiting. We had him join the live stream a little bit early. And as much as I do love making him stand awkwardly against a wall, let's go ahead and Lorenzo, hey, thank you for being here. Could you tell me a little bit about yourself? Just introduce yourself to the good people.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I made Parrot. I made the Parrot project almost 12 years ago now. And it was for me a very important opportunity to learn about cybersecurity, learn about this industry from an eagle eye perspective on not only the cybersecurity industry as it is, but also the open source world and how open source tools can actually help various information technology industries to grow in amazing directions.
Heck yeah. By the way, thank you again for being here and for doing this live. This is very cool that we're able to have you live. Lorenzo, just to confirm, you're in the Hack the Box headquarters right now, correct?
Yes, we are just opening the new official headquarters of Hack the Box here in Athens. It is ginormous. This place is simply big, and it is amazing. It says a lot about the Hack the Box culture, and you have to come visit it. At some point, you have to.
Heck yeah. I'm looking forward to it personally, but definitely check it out, everyone. Thank you again for being here, Lorenzo. As we get into your talk, let's go ahead and before I actually forget, everyone in chat, because this talk is live, I will be taking a couple questions from chat regarding the topic that we are going over. If you do have a couple questions for Lorenzo, feel free to put them in chat. If you have funny comments too, I might read those. We'll see.
Cool. I took the risk, so now it's okay.
Oh goodness, that's the joke. We've actually replaced him with the Terminator, and that's who we have on the live stream. Anyhow, Lorenzo, would you mind telling us a little bit about Parrot and kind of the history of the Parrot project and how you got involved with that?
Yes, well, Parrot is one of the most known penetration testing Linux distributions. It means that you have your Linux box full of all the tools needed to develop software, do penetration tests, also, test the security of your software or your network infrastructure, or get to know this whole amazing universe with the right tools from the beginning. Now, it used to be a very innovative project back then when I created it by putting a lot of new ideas that were revolutionary for the time. At least I believe so. But now we are kind of the old school kind of project that is now very stable, very big, very established in the industry. But we are still looking forward to the future, to what should be next for a project like that. In fact, we are trying to revolutionize the way the system is organized and ships the tools for the next version, which is Parrot 7. Which will probably be released for next summer. I hope so, with the next Debian stable release. So it is a complex project. It is very big. It includes hundreds and hundreds of cybersecurity tools. So we take care of them, so you don't have to. That is the philosophy behind the development of these kind of tools. And also we take a lot of care to the optimization of such tools, so that they behave properly with each others. That's it. But of course, there is always more. For instance, since we really love technology and we love experimenting with it, we also try many new ways of using Parrot. So not only a Linux box sitting on your laptop hard disk with all the tools inside, but we are also experimenting a lot with Docker and container technologies. So you can deliver a tool on a cloud infrastructure and test whatever infrastructure you need to test from wherever you want. You might even use the Parrot toolkit from other operating systems that have nothing to do with Parrot or Debian even. Like you might use the Parrot Docker containers on Windows, macOS, Fedora, or Arch Linux, or any other distribution you like. So my end goal for Parrot is to be less just another Linux distribution for penetration testers, and more like a framework of a cohesive set of tools for penetration testing, delivered as a framework for people to build on their own and to do amazing stuff.
Out of curiosity, just before I get too far into this, is there a link you'd like me to throw in chat? I know that I kind of have you standing in captive. For people who are interested in getting involved with Parrot, do you want me to grab parrot.org?
Yes, take it. Unfortunately, I don't know why, but I cannot see what's being streamed right now. I still see the starting soon screen.
We can fix that. After this, we should be able to
Okay.
after if you want, you can pull up the live stream in YouTube too, and that'll give you a live preview. But anyhow, that is all good. Awesome. I will go ahead and grab that link here in just a little bit, and I will put that in chat just for anyone who is interested. And I'll grab the Discord link as well for Parrot. Just
parrotsec.org, and you find everything there.
I definitely typed in parrot.org and did not get that. Here, I'll type that in here. Thank you. Just before I forget and put that in chat. And I can't recommend enough, checking out those open source projects, especially the Parrot community, because the Parrot community is incredibly welcoming. That being said, I don't want to keep you too long from your the actual questions that we had. Want to go right into those?
Yeah, why not?
Heck yeah. So here's our first question that we have for you for our interview here too. And thank you, Musad, as well for that comment in the love and chat. The first question is, how important is it to contribute to an open source project for your personal career development? And I do have a follow-up on this afterwards. So how important is it for your career development?
Well, it was today.
Maybe I think you're cutting out a little bit, Lorenzo. Could you step just a little bit forward, closer to the mic?
Yes, I'm using actually the headset as a mic, so maybe should I?
Yeah, you're good then. It was clipping for just a second. There we go.
Oh, okay. Well, for me, actually contributing to open source projects was crucial, not only because of the visibility and exposure that it gave me, better than having a degree actually, but also because the amount of things I could learn by doing that. Things that nobody else will ever teach you. So for me, that was a double opportunity. But it is also a question people ask me every time I'm invited to a conference or something. I'm like assaulted by people, and this is one of the questions they tell me: why open source? How can open source help me with my personal career? And there is an example I give back to people who give me that question, which is: imagine you are in a company, you are HR or you are doing an interview to some new candidates because you need to hire them, maybe for a technical position, hopefully. Who will you hire? That's the question. A guy who just graduated and is now learning what's next in their career, or someone who actually contributed to the projects and the technologies you need someone to be hired for. I give an example. Who will you hire? Someone who just studied databases at school, or someone who had some contribution, even if it's minimal, to PostgreSQL or MySQL? For me, that guy who actually worked on Postgres or MySQL has something more that just a just graduated student might not have. So I will probably go with that. And this is usually how you can develop your career, your CV, by contributing to the projects that are of interest for the industry you want to get involved with. So my suggestion is go check them out, go check those projects, see what they need to evolve, which might not be code, because code might be difficult to understand. And to actually propose a valuable change to them, you might spend way more time than you actually have. So maybe you could contribute by helping with translations, by helping with maintaining the documentation and so forth. This is valuable contribution that such projects really need from, especially the first comers to the project, and that will give you a lot of visibility anyways. And also a lot of understanding about how the project actually works, how the database engine, for instance, actually works.
Yeah,
it also gives you a lot of confidence while you answer a technical interview for a position.
I'm glad you highlighted that confidence, just because that's so important. And it would you say it really gives you something to speak to in those interviews? Not to put words in your mouth.
Sorry?
Would you say it's something that, so you mentioned that confidence that you have in interviews from working on these projects. Would you say that confidence comes from having something that you can speak to, or could you describe that a little bit more? Absolutely.
Confidence emerged, especially for us, the IT guys who are, a bit shy at publicly exposing themselves. confidence is that thing that emerges when you don't just know the matter, but own it. And the only way to own it if you did something for yourself related to that. An open source project for me is the best way to learn something on your own that you like, that you're craving for. So I think confidence is crucial and can actually emerge from you having to write the documentation of MySQL, because you didn't just learn the difference between, I don't know, MySQL and MariaDB by reading a book or some online posts. Maybe you documented that actual thing on their official documentation, so you had to study to, and that reference is now your words on that if you had read documentation, for instance. But even with other smaller projects, for instance, for me years ago was contributing to the Bitcoin project. Before actually, not to the Bitcoin core project, but to several Bitcoin related projects. For me to feel confident enough to submit the pull requests to those projects, I went studying the papers, reading the code. Even if I didn't understand it, I learned C++ by trying to create my own Bitcoin core fork. Of course, it wasn't successful. People approached me to do scams online, so I closed everything and call it a day. But I learned a lot of things on doing that. And now today, I could kind of call me myself an expert on how blockchain technologies work, just because I wasted the necessary time on code, on my own projects, and on projects of other people around. And that was possible only because of open source. So it's a mindset. It's a mindset, and it's a way you approach life, maybe.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I think my webcam is trying to die today, so I may swap. I have other webcams I can swap it out for after the fact. You said it's a way of life. So I have a follow-up question on that. We had an awesome question in chat. Let me go ahead and grab the one that we have in chat from Asterate, and I'll go ahead and pull it up here. I'll read this out loud for you because I don't know if you'll be able to see it. This question reads, how does one contribute to an open source project? Like approaches and stuff, as I feel it's quite big and scary to approach. Where would you recommend getting started if you were new and wanted to get started with this? You mentioned some documentation. Are there other areas that you'd recommend?
Yeah, even code, little pull requests. If the software maybe lacks a feature that you want to introduce and you might want to try to implement it, why not? There are two things. In fact, I really like the choice of words in that comment because especially the scary word is very, very accurate for how you feel when you first approach an open source project. It's very, very scary because you're putting yourself out, not to just a company, but to the whole world to see your thing. Most of the times, your first contributions might get declined because not of the code itself, but because of the structure, the way you presented it. My suggestion is to not get stopped there. It wasn't a judgment on your skill set, on your ability to contribute to it. It was just a way for them to push you to do better, to follow the coding standard they have already adopted, to follow a specific standard in how the pull request should be made, and so forth. So don't consider a declined pull request as a failure or as you not being enough to contribute to. Just continue. Ask for them to tell you how to get better. Ask for examples. Ask for other things. Help you to do their proper pull request to integrate your code there. And that will make, of course, your first approach way easier. For me, the first contribution was translations. I got a couple declined. I didn't care. It was just translations. It was way easier. Others were adopted. And seeing my code, my little Italian translation in that program I used daily, was an amazing feeling that everyone should, I think, should feel at least once in their life. But of course, every project is different. Every project has not only its own programming language of choice, but also their own standards in the way the code is built, tested, deployed, reviewed, and so forth. So the first step is to actually learn how to read an open source project. You have to learn how to read before learning how to write, of course. It is the same for code. You read how other people made the comments, the commits. You read how other people made the functions, structured the code, where did they handle the errors, and so forth. So this way you can have an initial understanding on how the project is structured. And some of the times, especially for the very, very, very big projects, you might notice that they are made modularly. So you don't have to understand it all. Once I tried to open the Blender source code, it was a mess of C++ code. I couldn't figure out where to start from. But Blender, from the graphical user interface, you can see it has separate modules with separate functions. So I looked for them in code, and I noticed it was way easier to cut the bigger problem into smaller ones and just learn from what you actually needed to put your hands on. Linus Torvalds, the creator and inventor of the Linux kernel, actually said during the last open source summit in Vienna, yes, it was in Vienna, that he doesn't understand the whole of the Linux kernel. He only knows how a couple of modules of the Linux kernel work, and then he relies exclusively on the respective module maintainers to keep the whole kernel project coherent. So if not even the founders of big projects can have a full understanding of the whole, don't worry if you don't get the same from the beginning, especially from the beginning, because for some project, nobody can.
Thank you for bringing up that example too with Linus, especially with his fun commentary. Be warned,
Yeah.
if you reply to mail threads or email threads with him on it, you may get sassed out, and it's pretty hilarious because he does not mince words.
Now he's getting better, actually, but yeah, he still has opinions. But those opinions, you might agree or not, those opinions forced the kernel development community to actually adopt very, very high quality standards for how code is written. Because Linux, of course, is a big project, is an important one, and everyone will dream to gain exposure through it. So the Linux project gets flooded constantly by people who try to do fancy looking code just to show up themselves. And this is what they were trying to solve. And I think this is where the behavior of Linus Torvald degenerated from. But even Parrot, the Parrot project, which is way smaller, it is not all made by myself. It is, a distribution based off another distribution. I don't know all the tools. I don't know how to use all the tools that are inside. A few minutes ago, before we started the live, a guy from Mac the Box working on a machine told me that a tool was not included. I didn't even know the name of that tool. I've never heard that before. I looked on apt search, and the tool was already there on the repository, and I was the maintainer of that tool. I completely forgot about its existence, and it wasn't pre-installed. So I modified the line of code to make it pre-installed on the next version because he needed that. It was like a fuzzing tool. So that's if not even me can have track of everything unless relying on the specific project management tools. Just don't get scared by approaching an open source project.
Now, we have an awesome follow-up question, also from Asterate. This one reads, would you say the methodology approach for security testing in open source projects is similar to bug bounty projects? So kind of a similar methodology there. I don't know how much experience you have with bug bounty. We can, go ahead.
Okay. The first reaction I had when I first read the question was probably not, because bug bounty is something you do without having the source code in hands. But now I get the real meaning of the question. And the answer is yes, absolutely. You get your community involved in making your product more secure. That is for sure a way of, adopting an open source kind of mindset. And for sure, I encourage it. Bug bounty is a bit sketchy, at least to me, and I always have hard opinions on that. I don't insult people around, but have hard opinions on things. For me, bug bounty, this is the reason I didn't do that, is a way for a company to not take liability, to not invest into having like a firm doing an actual review of code, but having random people unpaid to do the tests and just pay them in case they found something. But I still believe bug bounty is something that should be there to reward those people who actually find something. It's just that you also have to implement other security testing measures, like paying someone maybe to not find anything on your code. It's something that have absolutely to be done. Both are to be done in a company. And bug bounty, if done properly, is an amazing way for curious people to get rewarded for what they find out. Come on, 20 years ago, people used to get arrested if they found something. Now, if you found a 0-day vulnerability in I don't know, fucking Chrome, you might spend the rest of your life doing absolutely nothing because of the millions you get out of that. So it is amazing.
Now, we have a super serious follow-up question. It's more of a comment from username UnrealFart69. They commented, you got a cool accent, Lorenzo. And I felt that was important to acknowledge.
In Italy, we don't have the same foreign language culture as in other countries. So for me, it was very, very hard to develop kind of good, skill set in that, because everything in Italy gets translated. So I learned English by watching movies in their original languages, by speaking with people from non-native English language spoken countries. How to say that? Okay, I'm getting back. So my English is a mixture of things I've been surrounded with for years. Maybe my written one is kind of better, but I try to do my best.
I just mostly want to acknowledge that comment from that username, just to make sure you saw that.
Yeah.
This is important.
I wanted to do it live, so again, it's on my own.
Of course.
It's all of me.
Here, go ahead. I have the next question ready whenever you are ready, but I don't want to cut you off as well. Ready?
No. Let's go with the other one.
Awesome. So the second question that I had just in my list of questions is, how important is it to maintain open source projects for the software industry? The counterpoint to this question is, why shouldn't you rely on only closed source projects?
Well, closed source projects mean there is a company behind that can be considered liable for any issue you have. But if we look at the history of software, every time an entire industry was dominated by exclusively closed source products, that industry completely stagnated and cut, especially us, the curious guys, out of the business. Not only that, but it also prevented that industry from growing up and developing into something else, something better, something better, I think is the best way to define it. I'll give you an example. Digital forensics. Digital forensics is a scientific process. You need to be able to reproduce whatever you do during your analysis. For those who are not familiar with that, it basically means someone gets arrested and a technician has to, or usually in some countries there are police officers, in others they are consultants of the police department. Or they could be also private investigators for specific cases, like investigating on business infidelity or something like that. Let's say you get caught and your computers and phones need to be analyzed to extract the digital evidence, a digital proof of a conversation, of a file you downloaded, the proof of a crime that was committed. A process needs to be established that needs also to be reproducible. You cannot damage the proof, so you have to apply a very peculiar scientific methodology in order to do that properly. And since information technology is built by standards, it was extremely easy, especially in the early 2000s, to develop the proper tools to clone a disk byte by byte without compromising its content. So you could actually do another round of the same tool and get exactly the same output, or to be able to do the tests on a genuine copy of the whole thing and have the same result as if the test, if a destructive test was done on the original one. Unfortunately, technology evolved, but the tools, the open source tools to do digital forensics didn't. And the only tools that actually evolved, for instance, to do a mobile phone analysis, were proprietary tools. As of today, only one or two products exist to digital forensics properly. Just naming one, there is UFED from Cellbrite. It costs a lot. Nobody knows how it works, so it is impossible to demonstrate how the agent went to that result. Of course, if you buy the same product and you do the same scan, you'll have the same output, but you don't know how the scan was performed. So we have no clue how it works. We are not allowed to. Expand it to include support to an app that is not included by default. So you entirely have to rely on that. And digital forensics completely died. As of today, there is no way of doing a full digital forensics operation by relying on open source tools you can actually know how they work. It is a pity. In fact, the digital forensics industry completely stopped at this point. It is just the few companies doing their products and keeping them updated for the latest versions of whatever phone is out. But for everything else, we are out of it completely. Let's get even back in time. The browsers industry. We are safe now with open web standards only because the Mozilla Foundation made Firefox as an alternative. Well, they what was the previous one? Like Netscape, they bought it and continued it as Firefox. So it was an open alternative existed for people to expand and develop open standards on. Imagine if Microsoft succeeded at their plan of having a web monopoly with Internet Explorer back then.
What a terrible world!
Exactly. Imagine having to pay Microsoft in order to be able to introduce some features to make your website look modern. Or it is not something that sounds crazy, because do you remember when the Acrobat products were a thing?
Oh God!
Like Macromedia Flash Player or the Acrobat, the other one I don't remember the name. If you wanted to have some animations or your website, you had to rely on some agents running on your computer, full of very, very critical vulnerabilities that potentially enabled anyone with the proper technology, with the proper key, to access your computer. It was a security hazard. It wasn't just an industry stagnating there. It was a security hazard for anyone using that kind of products. And there were services that were exclusively usable through these kind of things. So open source also makes sure that the internet and our way of doing computing stays secure. Wait, it doesn't mean that every open source project is more secure than a proprietary one. There are several cases where it doesn't apply. Being open source enables the community, if any, to actually test for the security of the code. Keeping it proprietary does not stop the bad guys from finding a way to exploit your software. So it's not by keeping your source secret that you keep it more secure. Security by obscurity is something that every professional security something will discourage from adopting. Even cryptography, come on, you have to open. The best door is the one that stays secure, even if the projects are out there. In fact, the best cryptographic standards are standards. You know how they work, yet they are still secure. This is the perfect definition of the most secure code in the world.
Thank you for talking about closed source too. I'm sure you've encountered this. I do want to make sure I get to a couple other questions in chat, but quickly, just as a counterpoint to that, I'm sure you've seen this, but in my work as a pen tester, I often find that closed source receives significantly less scrutiny, and it's almost only tested by corporate pen testers, if ever. Just because it's inaccessible. Would you say that your experience is in line with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that for smaller projects, and I will give an example later, it is fundamental to have a business model, a revenue model, to support yourself from continuing to do the software. And sometimes there is a way to do it with open source. It is an amazing way of doing it with open source, but it doesn't work all the time. So I understand some of the projects who go proprietary, but I don't understand the most of them. Especially those who go like in hybrid mode. They try to open whenever they can, but they are kind of scared of opening the code. They are not risking anything. There is this fear of your competitor copying your features and doing a product which is better than yours. By my experience and by looking at the history of we have some history now, like a at least 40 years old history of modern ways of doing open source code and how it worked. Open sourcing a project never led to your competitor to clone you and make their code better. You might take inspiration from your code, but if you invested into your code base, you are not interested in throwing it away to copy what an open source project did instead. It is a thing. It is a thing that happens. If you ever sit at a table where a company decides what to do next, cloning some open source competitor has never been an option there. Instead, the others might take inspiration from your code. And if you do your licensing right, you might force them to contribute back with their code in case they did better on top of your own idea. So you might have your competitors helping you with your code. In other examples, like let's say Kubernetes, Google did its own containers orchestrator for its infrastructure. They did it open source. And what's happening now? Their direct competitors who decided to adopt Kubernetes have not just stolen it, quite the opposite. They are contributing that way. So open sourcing your project is actually a way to have your competitors make your own project bigger and better. And also, it is a way to establish dominance over the industry. It is extremely specific to true for big organizations. If your competitors use your own product, what will their clients believe of you? That's the point of opening a project like Kubernetes. And in other cases, like let's say Facebook, they have their own orchestrator, in-house orchestrator that even done some years before Kubernetes was even a thing. They have never decided to. They didn't migrate to Kubernetes. They decided to continue on their own. Most of the downsides of going open source that people are complaining about, most of the cases are not an actual thing that happens in real life.
Thank you for speaking to that, especially some of the fears that can happen there. Let me go ahead and I have, by the way, chat, y'all have some awesome questions. Thank you for these questions. They're very well written, especially the one about Lorenzo's accent. Just great. I do say this more seriously, though. We do have a question here from a user named Superfly. Fun username, too. The question reads, what are some effective ways to leverage my current skills to contribute meaningfully to open source projects? And how can I identify projects that align with my expertise? So maybe a little bit broader than Parrot. How can you find something that you think you'd be good at contributing to?
Okay, this is an extremely hard question.
Do you want a minute to think about that? I can go to another question. Yeah. Here, let me go ahead. I'll grab another question.
Okay, let's try another. But I want to get back to that one later because it's interesting. It's hard, but it's interesting.
Great question. Just as a quick aside, I'm realizing that I need to steal you from another AMA so we can do another open source talk. So we'll definitely do that here in the next year to go over that. I say that just because we're getting a lot of interest here, and I want to make sure people can see the open source aspect of that. That being said, let's go ahead. I have another question on the list here, and we'll go back to that question afterwards. This question is, how can you live out of open source projects? Could you speak to that and kind of define that term, live out of?
Yeah, business model. How do you get money to survive, to buy food by giving your software away for free? First of all, with open source, especially with most of the licenses out there, even the like the GNU GPL, those that are very hardcore ones, you are allowed to sell your binaries. I give an example. The Ardor DAC, it is an audio workstation program. You can compose music with that. If you go to their website, you are forced to make a donation in order to download the executable. So you get money from donations, and you can enforce donations on the binary, because what has to be open source is the actual source code that has to be provided with a binary as well. Red Hat made an amazing open source Linux distribution. All the code is out there, public almost. They freaked out recently when they were bought by VMware. No, Oracle, I don't remember. I don't remember. Who cares? But they did an amazing product. You had to pay a lot to have it, but it was still open source. They could make one of the most influential and biggest in terms of revenue Linux distributions out there, and that was successful. And the code was free. And there is also another way of doing that. You can sell services on top of your product. Look at the Blender Foundation. You can rent remote servers to do that. You can have training. There are companies that rely on the software, so you don't get your money from doing the software. You get the money from the company that you can have on it. You can establish by that software just existing. There are, for instance, companies that sell enterprise services on top of Postgres, on top of other databases. We as Parrot get money from investors to keep Parrot alive. Why? Because there are companies like Hack the Box that need Parrot to stay alive. Not only to stay alive, but to be wealthy. So they're willing to hire us, create a department called Parrot inside, along with marketing, development, engineering, systems, and so forth. This is like a Parrot department inside Hack the Box. I am the leader of it, of course. We are completely free to continue our development with full autonomy. They don't tell us what to do, and they pay us a salary to continue just to work on the Parrot project. Because if Parrot fails, they will probably be forced to look for something else, which might be directly controlled by a competitor of them. There are several reasons why to do that. So they preferred, you know what? Let's hire these amazing guys and let's make them play with the system. And from time to time, since we have a good understanding of how the industry is evolving, we might also have some good ideas for them. They're not only the only ones. There are other companies that are interested in supporting Parrot as a project. And if not Parrot, there are companies interested in supporting other tools that are included into Parrot. So there are several ways of gaining from open source software. You just have to find the one that adapts better to you. This is my opinion on that, because I've seen it happening, but I know it can be hard. It is, of course, a harder path, because it is not what we are taught in school. There is no what we see other companies do. So we have first to understand the whole model, how it works, how to use it properly, how to take advantage of it in a profitable way before deciding to do the big move. Otherwise, we are lost.
Don't mind me. I had some awesome questions come in chat, and they were distracting me there at the end. Thank you, everyone.
Can we get back to the harder one before we?
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump back to that one, and then I have a couple other questions that we'll wrap up with. And additionally, I'll make sure to get some more time with you, just because I see all the interest here, and I want to make sure that folks can learn about open source. Especially, I mean, I've been in this situation before that it can be difficult. It can be a little bit of a fear factor to get involved, where it's how do I actually do that? And that's a great segue into this question that I didn't mean to do. But hey,
yeah, when you think you got the point, you didn't.
Yeah. Here, let me go ahead. I'll read this question again, just because I want to give you the full question, or the question in full. This comes again from Superfly. What are some effective ways to leverage my current skills to contribute meaningfully to open source projects? Additionally, how can I identify projects that align with my expertise? So the first part of that question is, how can I use my current skills to contribute to open source projects? So what I have right now, how can I kind of discover or go through what I know? I mean, you can even use me as an example if you want.
Well, first answer is, it is another question, sorry for that. What is an open source project that you use daily and I've never looked into it? Try opening the source code and see what you can get. For me, I will give you my answer to that question, because which might not exactly be the right answer for you, Superfly, but let's see if it answers you. For me to stay alive in the industry, which is constantly evolving, I have to chase what my current passion is. Otherwise, I get demotivated. I struggle to keep on. So I feel now that I know how I work, I feel free to span through whatever my current passion is and try to explore it. So if you are curious about something, you might look into the open source projects that will help you to do so. I was recently involved into DJing. Again, I started with music when I was very young. Then I posed for information technology, cybersecurity. Now I'm again into music. So I started to look into codecs, FFmpeg source code, and so forth. So instead of identifying projects that might align with your expertise, open source exploration might be a chance for you to develop an expertise from the ground up. Are you new to cybersecurity? Are you learning cybersecurity? Are you building an expertise in the cybersecurity industry? Try to look into the source code of the tools you might encounter while you do a course, the Hack the Box Academy, or whatever you're doing at university if you are there. And the source code, since it is made by hackers, which means lazy people in a hurry, it's usually very simple and easy to understand. Not only that, that code might be limited. While looking at the code, you might have ideas to expand it. For instance, there was a library I used. It was in Python. I hated Python with passion, but you have to know it. There was a library in Python to test whether a mail server is properly configured or not. I looked in the source code just because why not? And I saw I could understand every part of it. It was extremely easy to understand because the Python APIs to interact with the SMTP were easy. I saw that I needed to do some tests to test the actual configuration because there was also a proxy involved that the application wasn't doing. I wrote those few lines of code to do that. So that was my first way into understanding the SMTP protocol better, getting back into Python. I still hate it with passion, but doesn't matter.
Ouch! You talking
and get to know a new tool.
Python there, sir.
Sorry for that. It is an industry standard, of course, but it is very slow. There are many downsides of using it in the context I currently work on. For fast prototyping, of course, it is very, very useful. So
I just can't miss a moment to give you crap, though. You walked right into it. Here, go ahead. Go ahead. I cut you off there.
If you have a tool in your minds and you are building an expertise into whatever you're doing, open whatever you have in your minds. If it looks very too big to begin with, just do it anyways. Maybe you might not get it now, but maybe in 10 years you will get back to that project, open the source code, and understand it. For instance, the Blender is one of the examples of that, because several years ago, I tried to understand the source code of Blender because I wanted to get involved into the development of their video editor they're integrating. I couldn't get a shit of that source. It was too hard for me. The way it was structured was very complicated. I hate C++ as well because of how many features it has that make you think about the feature to use rather than the code you want to develop. In fact, I am, guess what, a Golang developer, for those who got the joke. Few months ago, I got back into lurking into the source code of Blender. And guess what? All the time wasted in opening Blender years ago got back again as a useful experiment I did years ago. So you never waste your time while exploring the code, even if it's not for you. Even if you open the project, it's not too complicated because you don't even know that language. It will get back at some point. It will reward you with something anyways. But yeah, I get it is hard to do. So the first time you are completely blind in this world. Once you start doing that, you get familiar with that. It is exactly when you have to learn your first programming language. You don't get what you're doing. When you after the second language, every language mostly looks the same, and you are willing to maybe learn a new one. It is easy to understand. It's easy to do because they kind of work the same way. There is only one difference here between the you at the first programming language and the you at the third or the fourth, which is your confidence in addressing the subject. So just open the source code of whatever project is involved in the expertise you're trying to develop and see what you can get there. If you do it with confidence, even if you close the whole project without getting a shit, it will not be time wasted, for sure. Or maybe you already are familiar with some development. and you see that the make file is not written properly. Maybe compiling some of the extra things is done in the installation stage instead of the build stage. So you decided to contribute to that and fix their make file.
Mm-hmm.
That will be a valuable contribution to the project, and you will be able to do that without even understanding how the source code actually works. So you don't even have to look for that, because make file is maybe something you know. So every project has something that you know that you might contribute to. Other questions? Also, I don't want you to run out of time because we have other guests, I believe.
Yeah, I think we will be able to take one more question. I have a really good one here that I like, and then we'll end off on how you can contribute to Parrot, just to wrap that up and make sure that everyone has those links. We're getting a lot of great questions, and I apologize if I'm not able to get to your questions. There are just so many good ones here. Apologies, one of the users in chat appears to have a name that's made out of Japanese or Chinese kanji. I cannot read that name, so unfortunately I cannot display that question because I can't confirm if it's something bad or not. However, I do want to acknowledge you have some great questions. We have an awesome question here that I wanted to end on before we get to contributing. This one comes from Jack the Lion. This one has to do with AI contributions to code, and I thought this one was very interesting and very topical. Here's the question in full. Has AI contributed code become an issue with open source, and how is that code identified? Is it business as usual, or have you had to adapt the code review process?
Well, you immediately identify code made by an AI. It looks too good to be true. Everything is commented, well organized and structured. Then when you start looking into the logic, the way it is assembled, you start to see things that should not be there. Also, the code standard might not fit the code standard of your own project. And this is a clear indicator that someone either didn't give a shit about looking at your code and understanding how it is done, or just copied the code from somewhere else. AI is an issue for writing code because if you know exactly what to ask, it might be helpful for you to automate your own writing code. Otherwise, it is completely useless because the average, the quality of the code is the average of all the code that the AI was trained on. So you introduce the same bugs that are most common to happen, and so forth. It is an extremely useful device for an expert to be faster at doing code. It will destroy entirely the open source projects if exclusively relying on that. For instance, we recently received a pull request to one of our projects that was entirely made by an AI. You could tell it because a developer is usually lazy, and the description of that commit was huge and verbose. So, and the AI cannot really expand the content you gave to it, like the prompt, the content embedded in the prompt. So whatever it can do is to add useless semantics to it in order to make it look coherent in language, but the actual content is the only the one provided in the prompt. Just run me the prompt, so I have all the information. Not waste my time forcing me to read a giant block of text where you describe the few things you did. The few things were also being done through AI, so you could see that the code had a different style. We were using snake case that was camel case instead, things like that. It used a class that didn't existed. It did a check that was already performed in another file, so we had to discard it politely, of course, but we had to discard it. So we wasted some time handling AI contribution. It is a thing. Of course, it requires some adjustments of the review processes, because you have first to identify whether you're dealing with real code or AI code, and then decide what to do then. So there is an extra stage. It's not about adding for maybe stages to your review pipelines. It is more about being trained to handle these kind of situations. Which are becoming very, very common. So it's not about changing the process. It is about changing the way we are trained to the process now that we have this new thing.
Yeah. Hey, wait, you're saying it's a bad idea to fire coders and just replace them with AI? What do you mean? I thought that it's just AI.
It is the worst thing you could even do. Well, if you are an extremely good developer and AI makes you faster at writing good code that you are able to recognize as good code, then yes, you might be more productive. And if you have many developers that are way more productive, you might not need the less skilled ones. You might rely on less developers, but those have to be well trained and well skilled. For instance, you cannot have just juniors handling a project written by with AI assistants. The AI assistant have to be used by an expert. Then in the company, you might need only that expert instead of 3 developers. Maybe this is something that might happen, and automation has always replaced the repetitive and useless is the wrong word, but allow me to use it, resources that you have in the company. Automation is a thing that we cannot stop. Now we are at the verge of a new revolution, a new automation iteration in the industry, and it's helping to replace many people, actually, as always have happened since we invented the steam machines or whatever. So we, at some point, will figure out that some people cannot be replaced and that other can. There, we will have reached probably maturity of AI in our flow. For instance, AI is not creative. So if you replace your designer with AI, it will your users will unconsciously notice it and believe that you didn't even give a shit about your product to hire a professional and instead relied on AI. That usually makes a lot of errors, not only in code, but also in everything else. With semantics, with words, if you need to check the language of a book or something like that, it could be useful. But the content, you have to put yourself in. And that content have to be quality content. So you have to hire people that will be able to do it on their own with the proper expertise. Then AI can help.
Heck yeah! Thank you for the in-depth answer with that, especially off of my some of my joking commentary too. I really appreciate you stepping through that, especially because it is a uniquely modern problem, especially with your lived experience with being the head of an open source project. I really appreciate you speaking to that. That being said, I really appreciate being able to borrow you for some extra time. Just for everyone that's in chat, we had some extra time. Some of our talks were a little bit shorter, so I was able to give us a little bit more time. Lorenzo did not know that out in front, so I was able to abduct him for a little bit longer. That being said, I do need to get on to the other talks, so I'm going to go ahead and move us on to our last question, just to make sure that we get everything there. And thank you all for the love in chat. Thank you, of course, for all the great questions. Chat, you have been fantastic. These questions have been very well articulated. Thank you for asking them. Thank you for, thank you just for being here. Y'all are killing it, and it's great. Okay, wrapping up that. Getting back to you, Lorenzo, thank you for your patience there. I wanted to talk about, last but certainly not least, contributing to Parrot. Could you talk through the various ways? So if I wanted to, like maybe right after this talk ends, say I want to go and contribute now, how can I get involved? Where should I join? What are the things that I should start reading or be familiar with? Other than Emma saying you need to fix your mirrors.
Yeah, okay. It is a hard subject, especially for Parrot, more than any other open source project, because Parrot is an operating system. So it is not just a program, but it is a huge collection of other programs that were just put together in a functioning product. So there are several ways to contribute to it. You might want to contribute to the Parrot system itself. So you have to identify those packages that we wrote to add a specific icon to the menu and so forth. Or you might contribute to one of the tools or programs that we have inside, that we provide to users, because maybe you need to patch a tool that doesn't work, maybe because we couldn't provide the latest version of a tool because we weren't able to pack all the libraries it depends on. So this is where your help might be very, very useful to us. But since the structure is very unclear, especially at the beginning, you don't have like one repository with a Parrot source code. You have to, you are lost in a sea of packages that you have to know and explore. So the best way to contribute to the project is to use it, know it, get familiar with it, and then start to notice things that could be improved. Then get back to us, and on our website we have all the links to our communities, to our private channels, emails, and contacts. Approach to us and ask, how can I contribute by fixing this thing, by upgrading this package, by maintaining this new tool that you don't provide? And then we will intervene and guide you through the whole process to get completely autonomous in contributing to the project. Or maybe there are other ways you can contribute to, by writing the documentation, by updating the old one, by making video tutorials with our assistants. So you can do that, and it's free. It's free for you. It's not free for us, because we decided to give back a lot of prizes to our contributors through Hack the Box and other partners that put also real money into it. We can compensate you for collaborating to the system. We can give you Parrot gadgets. We do giveaways to our contributors, and we have a very well done contributors program where we track your contributions. We help you with them if they're not still quality ones. We will intervene to help you instead of just refusing them. And we will have like a scoreboard where we track your contribution and reward you if you keep consistent, if you did a certain amount of commits during the month, and so forth. So the rewards will be something back to that. And then of course there is the image return, because you will appear as a contributor of a well-established project like Parrot Security, which is something you could put on your CV and so forth. That is very helpful for finding a job if you know how to spend that thing with companies.
Absolutely. I made sure as well while we were talking there to add, I threw the parrotsec.org link in chat. And then additionally, I grabbed the Parrot Discord, which I hear is a pretty cool place. Not that I'm in it at all or anything. I don't know. I grabbed that link, and that is the link from the community page. Real quick, I did want to, I will give you a little bit of promo here. I wanted to speak to the fact that the Parrot community, I said this is just someone that works in community. The community there is very cozy, and that's a great thing. I say this as in, if you're looking for a community just to get involved, or really find a home community that you can make friends in and kind of sink your teeth into, so to speak, I really would recommend going through and joining the community. It's a great place to get started. A lot of people just hang out there and hack. Lorenzo, is there anything you wanted to add to my bit of self promo for y'all, I should say?
Yeah, well, every cybersecurity community has its level of toxicity, but we were lucky enough to keep it very, very clean, actually. Incidents always happen, but we are very passionate about the topic. We are try to establish friendship with our community, and if you are lucky enough and active enough, you might have a chance to enter our secret channel. It's like the secret cult of the sexy bird. So if you land there, you know you are someone in the Parrot community. Yeah, jokes apart, just get involved with open source projects, because the people you can meet there are amazing. Your next job might come from the networking you do while being involved with just the community of an open source project. My first job came from a local community of people passionate about information technology.
I mean, heck, that it was the same for me. It was all my content that I created for other sites, competitors, wink.
Every story of a successful career begins with steps that are impossible to reproduce, except they all have a common pattern, which is the networking of people you establish while attending conferences and participating to communities. And open source is the way of doing community in the software industry.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. Thank you, Lorenzo, so much for your time. I will make sure to, I'll work with you to set up some additional time for an AMA, or maybe even a getting started stream where we talk through how to get involved.
Absolutely, yes. So maybe I could fix my English finally.
I don't know if I don't know. You're going to get a lot of Iowa-isms from me. I don't know. Do you want to learn a lot of English bad words? Cool.
Not from you. Maybe not from you.
I want to make sure we get to our next talks, and I really appreciate your time here, especially keeping you a little over an hour, Lorenzo. I really appreciate it. I know, right?
Oh, poor follows. Come on.
I may not have told you what time or how long we were going. It's more fun that way.
You told me 20 minutes at least.
Yeah. Anyhow, I need to make sure to get to the next talk. So thank you so much again, Lorenzo Palinuro, for being here. Is there any shout outs, anything you want to mention as we wrap up your talk?
Not really. Just let's see what we can do with the next one.
Heck yeah. No,
and
I'm
just
excited.
Just download Parrot to try it.
Yeah. Heck yeah. I'll put those links in chat again. Be sure to join the Parrot Discord. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. We're going to go ahead and move to our next talk. Thank you, Lorenzo.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Thank you so much, Lorenzo. By the way, thank you everyone in chat for such awesome questions. Y'all had great questions. Thank you for the understanding as well as we kind of merged some of those questions, or I should say, as I merged them to make them fit together. Our next talk today, and I'll post the links to the CTF as well as the talks. Here is the picture that I'm actually using. If you're curious and want a direct link, there you go. The next talk is given by the one, the only, Xerox Emma Ruby. It is the servers in your basement and you, learning by building. Emma's another part of the community team. She does a lot of work. As you might have caught in the last talk, she also hosts a lot of mirrors, and she was giving Lorenzo a little bit of crap, well-deserved crap, I should say. Not that you heard it from me about their mirrors, but incredibly talented, and yeah, I'm excited to see what she has prepared for us. That being said, let's go ahead and dive right into the servers in your basement and you, learning by building.
Hey everyone, my name is Emma. I'm one of the community operations specialists here at Hack the Box. And today we're going to be talking about the servers in your basement and you, learning by building. As many of you know me by now, I am a big fan and proponent of home labbing. So let's go into the why first. This is one of the most common questions I get. Home labbing can be a very useful tool for you, as A, if you're like me, it's fun, but B, you get a lot of experience in setting up systems, working with them, and doing things for yourself. And when you build your own Active Directory network, your own auth setup, you learn how they're set up, where you might have went wrong security-wise, and just get better experience. Where do I start? You don't need a ton. There's so many cloud providers out there with free credits, like AWS has a bunch, GCP has a bunch. If you're a student, there's the GitHub Student Developer Pack, which has a lot of options. There's many. A home lab doesn't necessarily need to be in a home, but there is some considerations that you need to do depending on hosting for that, as there's a lot of them that have bandwidth caps, very small storage sizes. So depending on what you're wanting to run, it might be perfect if you're just running your own blog and you want to get experience with tooling and stuff like that. But if you want to run a huge media server, then the cloud might not be for you. In my personal experience, one of the best providers I have found is Hetzner. They offer really cheap, especially if you're looking for a lot of storage. Downside, they're mostly in the EU, so your latency might be a little bit high. But beyond that, even just an old laptop works perfectly, or an old desktop, whatever you have lying around. You don't need a lot. One of the most common things I see people using is i7-7700 mini PCs, like old little office 1-liter mini PCs. They're great, easy on power, and they're local. You can get them for like $50, $60 on eBay, like old Optiplexes, and they work just fine. Or you can get old enterprise equipment. This is a bit of a double-edged sword, as it's really nice for hackers, in my opinion, because you get to deal with BMC. This is something that's hard to get experience with otherwise, as you can't really virtualize it. It's a mess to deal with, but it's fun. What BMC is it's a baseband management controller. This is what you use. It's a mini computer running inside the computer that controls the computer that you're using. On Dell, this would be an iDirect. On HP, this would be ILO. You're seeing OpenBMC and a lot of new modern stuff. And on old stuff, it's a lot of Java, new stuff, HTML5, but it gives you full access to everything. You get a KVM with a shell on the system. You can change RAID controller configuration, and it's deeply tied in. So you can get experience using that from a sysadmin perspective, and maybe poke at Valens. It sounds something. Yeah. Depending on your area, Facebook Marketplace can also be a great place to look for old used enterprise equipment. A lot of the time, you'll find either people thinking a old Xeon is worth $2,000, but most of the time you'll find reasonable prices for nearly everything that you need. Don't let people with huge fancy setups discourage you. We all started somewhere as we built up over many years. If it's something you're interested in, you can obviously work towards that, but don't think that you need to get like a huge amount of gear and stuff to start and mess around. And it's better to start small, as that way, if you do ever want to build up, you have more experience. Oh, I need this or that, compared to anything else. Creating your own labs can also be a really valuable experience. Some to consider are GOAD, Game of Active Directory. This is an active directory. This is an active directory network similar to our Pro Labs that you can practice and understand how these are set up and work with and break them yourself. Make your own Pwn box, set up a Parrot instance, use that as your own. That way you can always be connected with the VPN, don't have to worry about RAM on your host system, etc. Or just make whatever is useful to use. There's no real wrong or right way to do it. Some other really fun projects that you can check out that may be fun and useful to you is Obsidian sync servers, so that way you don't have to pay them for money, and you can access all of your data between your devices for your Obsidian notes. Nextcloud OnlyOffice if you want to get rid of Google Docs in your life. There's also Image for photo backup. You can set up your own Plex/media server to manage all your content locally. You can even do home automation with Home Assistant, local AI models. Or if you have a lot of computers in the house, you can just use cache all the updates if you have slow internet. Some good platforms are starting are Proxmox. It's a good alternative to VMware that's free. That a lot of companies are now evaluating after the whole Broadcom mess. There's also XCPNG that is cool to check out. It's not technically free and open source, or it's not technically free, but it is open source, so you can compile it yourself. Docker and Kubernetes are also great to get experience in. You can do GitOps and CI/CD with those. GNS3 is really good if you're getting into networking. It allows you to spin up virtual machines or routers, switches, and set up your own networking configurations. So that way you don't need to go and buy tons of expensive equipment to get experience configuring networks, and many more. Now, why would you do this? Real-world skills are really good to develop with this. You get experience with being your own sysadmin, setting up a Linux system, setting up virtualizations, software, going through it, Active Directory networks if you choose. It can really go as far as you want to go or wherever you want to take it. But wherever you do take it, you can get really good insight into those systems. And even just looking at how you set them up, where did you go wrong on setting them up? How could you secure these better? And if you missed it, there's a good chance that a lot of other systems have missed it. And just troubleshooting skills, things will break. One of the best ways of learning is, oh no, this thing I use broke. How could I fix it? And going through. It looks like it broke, so I'll just jump in and continue the talk. One of the best ways you can get experience is identifying the mistakes you made. If you made a mistake, then just jump in, fix it yourself. If you miss it, someone else missed it. There's a bunch of really good ways you can learn by doing this. Just setting things up. Troubleshooting skills alone are very valuable. The mistakes that you made are valuable. Just security risks wherever you take it. Yeah, my dog apparently broke. But yeah, overall though, home labbing can be a really strong way to just get experience with servers, get hands-on, develop those troubleshooting skills, on top of having a lot of really cool benefits for yourself, just keeping all your data local, especially with the rise of AI. You don't have to deal with Google and all of them just scraping your data and using that for AI training. Do that for yourself. Make your own AI, scraping your own data. It's great fun. But yeah, that's kind of the point of it. This was meant to just be a brief overview on some of the things you can do with home labbing, some of the benefits, and why you may want to consider it. I highly suggest just spinning up a VPS on DigitalOcean with some free credits, roll with it, see what you can accomplish. It can be a lot of fun. And yeah, that's really the most of my talk. I hope you maybe learned something. You can find me on Discord. I'm always there, or anywhere in our community. If you have any questions, then I'll be more than happy to explain.
Hi. Hello again.
Hi.
Thank you for jumping in. I didn't, I heard that when I was stepping aside and I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on with this talk? Thank you everyone for bearing with us. We have yet more awesome talks to come. Our next one, I'm truthfully very excited for this one just because I've already seen the intro to it and it's pretty cool. This one is when our next talk is when smart assistants are dumb, a beginner's guide to misconfiguring LLMs. This is given by Ryan Gordon, aka Ryan, who is a senior technical operations manager here at Hack the Box. Just making sure I give everyone their full title. Ryan's awesome. If you've never had the chance to interact with him, you're missing out. I say that as I know Ryan's in chat and has jumped in. Ryan, I've seen a little bit of your talk here. I'm excited to show everyone this. Awesome work with your editing. And yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into it. This talk is going to be when smart assistants are dumb, a beginner's guide to misconfiguring LLMs.
GPT. Maybe you've heard of it.
It took Netflix more than 3 years to reach 1 million users. It took ChatGPT 5 days.
Amar Reshi asked a computer program to write a book.
The future of customer service is AI, but not just any solution can get you there.
Amazon and its new AI chatbot.
Our breakthrough AI bot.
This promises to be the viral sensation that could completely reset how we do things.
But this is only the beginning.
I'm ChatGPT, your AI chat companion. What's on your mind today?
These last 2 years have probably been some of the most interesting and exasperating to be a student. If you started your college career in fall of 2022, things were normal for a little bit, but November of that year saw the release of GPT 3.5, and along with it, ChatGPT. Suddenly, you could have a personal Aristotle that could fit into your pocket. To say that this changed the game for research and studying would be an understatement. The ground shifted and the academic world shifted with it. Students using it to complete their assignments, professors using it to draft assignments, AI plagiarism checkers claiming that the Constitution was written by AI, and all of the other chaos that ensued. In the roughly 2 years it's been since OpenAI showed that with transformers, more bigger basically equals more better, at least for now, we have seen dozens of improvements, competitors, and AI-powered software solutions hit the market, the most prevalent of which would be the AI chat assistant. Now, you might think these are bad, but human memory is also pretty bad. Take a modern chat assistant and compare it to 10 years ago, and it's a galactic difference. This has made them pretty popular. The usefulness of these assistants, like anything, varies, depending on the use case, the questions asked, and the specific technical details of how it's been configured and implemented. Your assistant could range anywhere from glorified talking trash can to something that's a joy to talk to. The implementation matters, and it matters a lot. These days, as long as you're using a modern model, The success and effectiveness of your assistant is much more dependent on the pipeline you build surrounding it and the way that you implement it than it does on the model that you chose to use. A stock model with just a special prompt, it's useful, sure, but it's generic, interchangeable. This is no different than if you just asked ChatGPT your question with a special prompt. How about an assistant that's connected to some knowledge sources, like a knowledge base, and can answer documented questions? Okay, this is better. That's certainly a better interface than digging around a help center trying to find the specific piece of information you were looking for. How about an assistant that's enriched with user context, that knows who you are and can actually dynamically look up information for you? An assistant that can analyze your schedule, look at your past grades, career goals, and draft specific plans for you. One that could book an office hour session, tell you which clubs have open enrollments, and tell you what happened in the class that you missed. Okay, now we're getting into the realm of an assistant that's genuinely useful in novel ways. The way that you implement your assistant is everything. This is going to determine how useful it is. And unfortunately, it is terribly easy to do this implementation wrong. And I don't just mean wrong in the sense of, oh, this is a really bad experience, I won't use this again. No, I mean wrong in the sense of, oh wow, this is extremely exploitable. And it's with that in mind that I want to talk about. I won't be explaining in depth the underlying theory or technical details of machine learning. This talk is about explaining misconfigurations and AI assistance, not an exploration of how generative AI works under the hood. But I recognize some people do touch grass and aren't familiar with some of the terms I'm going to be using. So let's take a moment to just briefly go over a few key concepts. The LLM, or large language model, is the actual underlying AI part of AI assistance. There are different types, but most modern LLMs are based on a particular type of model architecture called a transformer. That's where the T in GPT, generative pre-trained transformer, comes from. A common layman explanation you'll hear for how these work is that they effectively take in a truly massive amount of training data, typically text, broken up into little substrings called tokens. And through a process I'm not going to explain, the model is trained such that given a series of input tokens, it can generate a list of predictions for the next token in the sequence. In a slightly inaccurate but perhaps simpler explanation, given a series of words, it can predict what the next word will be. Saying that all an LLM does is predict the next token is a little misleading, but I've got limited time here and I promised I'd be good and stay on topic. From a practical standpoint, when you interact with something like OpenAI's GPT-4o directly, you do so through an API. For a simple text completion, that is, I send a message to the AI, it sends a message back, it would look like this. I choose the model I want to interact with, set a system prompt, which is a series of instructions about how the model should behave, like your helpful assistant who answers questions, and I specify the message to be sent to the model. Behind the scenes, the model processes the system prompt and user message as its input, starts recursively predicting output tokens, and eventually responds with a new message from the assistant. Pretty simple. You start to get real power out of LLMs when instead of treating them as a thing where you simply pass user input in and return the response, you instead build a custom pipeline around the LLM for your assistant that has more going on under the hood than just basic input-output to the model. For example, one technique you might use is RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation. The generation bit is the part we just covered, and retrieval augmentation refers to enriching the input provided to the LLM with additional information that's retrieved. At a high level, it basically works like this. You prompt the system with a question. The system performs some sort of retrieval based on your prompt. This might be a traditional search in a traditional database, or it might be something fancier, using something called embeddings in a vector database. Those are two things I will not discuss here, but I will leave for you as homework to research later. No matter how the retrieval works, though, the purpose is to fetch information that might be relevant to the user's query and feed that information into the prompt, so that the AI has context and is better able to understand and respond to that prompt. What type of things would you want to retrieve? Well, your knowledge base containing all your documentation would be useful for one. Or if you know the user is asking about something specific, like what topics a specific course covers, you might want to grab the syllabus for that course. Or if the assistant is helping plan your week, maybe you want to be able to retrieve the university calendar, and often retrieval is performed as part of the pipeline on the server that's interacting with the user. The most common implementation is that the user prompts the server with a question like, what topics are covered in Applied Physics 1? And then the system performs a search on a database. Maybe a fancy vector database, maybe not, and then gets some documents back. Usually it'll then pull out specific chunks of those documents, or maybe just the entire document itself, and it passes that to the LLM alongside the prompt as context. There are other ways of giving the LLM the ability to retrieve information, though, the most notable being function calling. In ChatGPT, this is referred to as plugins, where you can give the AI at its discretion the ability to call an API endpoint. In the API, this is where you allow the AI to, again, at its discretion, call certain functions that you've defined on your server and feed it the return values. This concept of empowering assistants to take actions that result in actual functions that you've defined being run, is where you start to get very useful assistants. With this, your assistant can dynamically look up real-time information and even perform changes in downstream systems. You can allow it to take actions out in the real world and do things on your behalf. This is where you start to see things like scheduling appointments or ordering your dog food, actual actions being taken through the mechanism of function calls. It's also where things can go terribly wrong and is the primary subject of this talk. Let's take a look at a real example. So I have this demo web app I've created here for a university portal for a university called Frontier U. And we have a dashboard, and we can see some things. I'm enrolled in 5 courses. I have a 2.67 GPA. Okay, that could be a little better. And some completed credits. And we can see some recent activity. If I go to courses, I can see the courses I'm enrolled in. I can also enroll in a new course. And I can see the grades that I currently have. Not doing too well in machine learning or network security, ironically. Man, 2 subjects you think that I would be doing great at. I'm not doing that great at. We also have a chat. Now, this chat is just an assistant for Frontier U. It's used for the students to be able to interact and ask questions, etc., to get help. And we can do some certain things. So let's try talking to it. Hello. Now, under the hood, this is the OpenAI Assistance API. Each chat is a thread in the OpenAI Assistance API, if you were to go and look at the documentation. And I have empowered this AI assistant with a few functions to be able to help the students out and give them additional information. So the AI knows who I am in some sense. Who am I? And it says I'm student 12 with the email address student12@university.edu. How does it know this? Well, it's because I'm feeding the AI with my user object every time I talk to it. So every time I start up a new conversation, the AI is fed some information based off the database of who I am. So it knows my student ID, my email, my name, which in this case is just student 12, and a few bits of other information that exist in the database for my user model. So the AI knows who I am and is able to address me more personally. It also has some functions that it's allowed to call in order to help the students and be able to, retrieve more useful information for the students when it's asked questions. So, like, for example, if I say, what grades do I currently have? It was able to get my current grades. Now, it didn't know that information until I asked. I didn't preemptively feed it with all of the information it could possibly want to know in advance. I asked it what grades I currently have, and it went to the backend and requested a function call for a particular function that allows it to retrieve grades. And then it gets the information back from that function, the return value, and it returns, well, the grades. Now, this demo app has an API, so I can submit some credentials to the auth login endpoint, and I can get back this access token. And we can use that to hit some other endpoints. If we hit the grades endpoint, we can see that we do get our grades, but only the grades for us. We can also try hitting the courses endpoints, and we get back the list of courses that we're enrolled in. That's pretty useful. And in fact, if I hit the /openapi.json endpoint, I actually get back an OpenAPI specification for my backend's API. And we can see that there's a few things in here that we do have the ability to do. One of which is to create a new chat. We can retrieve the messages for a particular chat thread. We can list our chats. We can reset our own password. We can get our current user model. We can list all the courses. We can list our enrolled courses. We can get the details of a specific course. We can enroll in a specific course. We can get our grades. We can view a specific grade ID. And then there are also some admin endpoints that are only going to be accessible to admins. So admins can list all users in the system, create users. Admins can get a user. Admins can update a user's information. They can delete users. They can set a user's password. They can list all courses just like a regular user can. They can create a new course, get a course by its ID, update a course, delete a course, list enrolled users in a course, enroll a user in a course, list all the grades, create a grade, list grades by course, get a grade by grade ID, create professors, yada, yada, yada. We can see that they have quite a fair bit of functionality that they're able to do, things that the regular user is not able to do. Let's try hitting one of these admin endpoints just for fun to see what happens. So I'll hit admin/users, and according to the API, this should list me all users in the system, but I don't have enough permissions. I get 403 permission because I'm not an admin. But maybe the AI has the ability to do this. Let's find out. What functionality do you have? It says I can assist with the following functionalities. List all grades per specific user, list all grades for a specific course, and list all courses available at the university. List all grades for a specific user and specific course is pretty interesting. I'm student 12, so let's try give me the grades of student 11. And it gives me the grades of student 11. Give me the grades of student 15. And it gives me the grades of student 15.
Hey everyone, I'm going to go ahead and fix audio. We're just going to pause this and get it restarted. It may just be an issue with our StreamYard setup, but I can get this all started. Let me see. Thank you for hanging out. That's wonderful, Ryan. Oh, goodness. Thank you, everyone, for your patience in chat. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Maybe you've heard of it.
All right. There we go. All right. It looks like we're having some issues with the audio for that talk. So we're going to go ahead. The audio for that will be fixed in the re-upload. I should hope you can hear me. I can see audio out coming for me. So we'll get that repaired. That'll be fixed. That's an easy fix. It may just be StreamYard being weird. So sometimes that happens. For now, just to keep us moving, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next talk, which is another really awesome one. I'm excited for this. This one is given by Rasti. He is a content engineer here at Hack the Box. Just making sure I refresh my name with refresh myself with the title there. The talk is called An Introduction to Applied Secret Sharing for Key Distribution. So we're going to be talking about secrets, key distribution, and I guess they're in. I'm trying to think of an additional thing there, but I'm excited. I've seen the talk a little bit. It's very cool. It's very technical. Rasti is very talented. He's one of the really awesome folks that makes the content that we have on the site. I forget which boxes or which work specifically he's tied to. However, he's very, very talented. I'm very excited for this talk. Without further ado, though, let's go ahead and jump right into our next talk. It is an introduction to applied secret sharing for key distribution.
Hello guys, this is Rusty from Hack the Box. I'm a content engineer in Hack the Box and I'm in charge of the crypto category. Hope you're all excited for this year's University CTF, and today we're going to make a walkthrough of the Easy Crypto Challenge of last year's University CTF, which was MSS and was about secret sharing. So we're going to make a short introduction into the concept of secret sharing so that the walkthrough does not seem like magic. So let's get started. First, I will make an introduction to the secret sharing, the concept of secret sharing, what is it and why we use it. Then we're going to cover some mathematical background to understand a couple of things that are required for the secret sharing algorithms that we want to see. Then we will describe briefly the summary secret sharing algorithm, the Chinese remainder theorem, and finally we're going to make the actual walkthrough, describe the solver, the source, etc. So let's get started. First, the introduction. What is it? What is actual secret sharing and why we use it? So first of all, what is the secret sharing that we talked about? Basically, it's a method to distribute a secret among a group of users securely. Okay. This secret is not distributed directly from a user to the other ones. So a single user does not hold the entire secret, but holds a part of this secret, namely a share. This is called a share in the cryptographic definition, as a cryptographic definition. This is called a share, and all users have a share of this secret. So if a group of 10 people want to agree on the same secret, all 10 of them have a share of this secret. Only if they combine their shares can reconstruct the entire secret. So not all of these 10 people are actually required to reconstruct the secret. The number of people required, the minimum number of people required to reconstruct the secret is called the threshold of the secret sharing scheme. And this is a parameter that will be agreed on the beginning phase of the secret sharing process. Suppose that the threshold, only 8 out of 10 people are required to reconstruct the secret. If less than 8 shares are combined, it's impossible to reconstruct the secret, and no information actually is leaked about the secret itself. So why is this important? We want to avoid a single person owning the key. Because if this person gets compromised, this is a single point of failure. This causes a single point of failure. That is, if one person that has the key gets compromised, the entire key gets compromised, and the entire communication gets compromised. So the good thing about secret sharing is that even if one person is compromised, not the entire secret will be compromised. Only its share, its corresponding share for the secret, not the entire thing. So the secret remains safe. If all 8 people are compromised, then okay, we have a problem, but this is very unlikely to happen. Okay, so why we want to use secret sharing? Even though symmetric algorithms, symmetric cryptography algorithms like AES are faster, much faster than doing it in asymmetric way, we have the problem of how we're going to transmit the symmetric key securely over a channel. This is the problem of key distribution, and it's about how are we going to transmit the symmetric key that will encrypt the data securely among a group of members, a group of users. So this is where Diffie-Hellman and the concept of secret sharing comes on to solve this exact problem. So basically, Diffie and Hellman, and in 1976, created the so-called Diffie-Hellman key exchange that solves this exact problem. Basically, we're using Diffie-Hellman to agree on a common secret that will be used to encrypt the actual traffic later. Then the concept of secret sharing was introduced by Samir and Blackley in 1979, and the first algorithm known for secret sharing is actually called Samir secret sharing, and is entirely based on polynomials and modular arithmetic. Another popular algorithm that that our challenge today is based on is the Mignot threshold secret sharing algorithm, which implements the concept of secret sharing using the Chinese remainder theorem. So at this point, there might be a couple of unknown words. For example, what is the Chinese remainder theorem, and what about polynomials and modular arithmetic? How are they used actually in practice? So hang in there. We're going to make a brief mathematical background to understand all the required knowledge behind. And specifically, we're going to talk about polynomials. So basically, a polynomial consists of multiple monomials. So what is a monomial? It's basically a coefficient, a number, an integer number, a coefficient a multiplied by a power of x. X is the unknown here. It's a variable. And so the power of x, n, must be 0 or positive, and is known as the degree of the monomial. Notice that if n becomes negative, it's no longer a monomial. So a is called the coefficient of the monomial and can be any number, real or complex. So a polynomial is a combination of monomials combined with the operation of addition and subtraction. Similarly, n is called the degree of the polynomial, and ai, a0, a1, a2, an are called the coefficients of the polynomial, and there are n plus 1 in total. In secret sharing, we're going to deal with the concept of polynomial interpolation. So what is this basically? When we refer to polynomial interpolation, we're basically saying that to interpolate a polynomial, it's equivalent to reconstructing the coefficients, right? In secret sharing, these coefficients are secret. So reconstructing a polynomial is equivalent to reconstructing these coefficients. And this interpolation theorem is the reason behind why compromising a single user in secret sharing is not enough to leak the secret. This is the reason behind this theorem, which states that, for example, suppose we have a polynomial of degree 5. So a0, a1, a2 until a6, a5. So 6 coefficients in total. It says that we will need 5 plus 1, 6 points in total, to uniquely reconstruct this 5-degree polynomial. If we have less than 6, then it's impossible to reconstruct it. But if we have exactly 6, we can uniquely reconstruct this 5-degree polynomial. So what a share looks like in secret sharing is basically this tuple: 1, pair of 1, 2, pair of 2, 3, pair of 3, 5, pair of 4, etc. What is pair of 1? We're basically substituting in the polynomial x equals 1. So we get a0 plus a1 multiplied with 1, so a1, plus a2 plus an. Pair of 2, we just substitute x equals 2, etc. So let's make a short introduction to the Samir secret sharing algorithm. Most secret sharing schemes consist of 3 phases. The first phase is called the initialization phase. And this is the phase where the users that will apply the secret sharing agree on some parameters, some domain parameters. First of all, it's essential to define how many users are going to take part in this secret sharing process. This is called, we should call this number n. If you remember from the first example, n was 10. We said a group of 10 people in total. This is the number of people that will take part in the secret sharing process. This is n. So then we mentioned that only 8 of them, the threshold, only 8 of them are required to reconstruct the polynomial with their shares. So t, we should call this threshold t. In the first example was the number 8 that we talked about. So this means that any group of 8 out of 10 people are actually required to reconstruct the polynomial. So the entire group of the n people, all 10 of them, must agree on some parameters. First of all, a prime number p. A prime number, to recall, is a number that has only 2 divisors. Sorry, 2 divisors. 1 and itself. It has no other divisors. For example, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, etc. These are all prime numbers and have only 2 factors. So after that, they will have to decide which polynomial they will agree on. Then the degree of the polynomial must be decided, which we will call d, and all the operations of this polynomial, addition, multiplication, subtraction, anything, will be performed modulo p. So this is where we apply modular arithmetic. And also the coefficients ai of the polynomial are elements inside this set. So are either 0, 1, 2 until p minus 1. So if p equals 13, the possible coefficients are 0 until 12. So in Samir, for example, this polynomial is defined modulo p. So if we say p of 2, we say a0 plus a1 times 2 plus a2 times 2 squared. These multiplications as well as these additions are all performed modulo p, modulo a prime number. So the next phase is the distribution phase, in which each of the n users get their own share. 1, p of 1, 2, p of 2, etc. until n. All of them take their share. Notice that we don't start with 0. We don't say 0, p of 0. Why? Because if we substitute here x equals 0, all these terms will be nullified. They will be eliminated. Basically, if we say 0, p of 0 is a0. And we don't want the secret to be part of the share, because shares are public. And we don't want the secret to be part of something public. We want to hide it, right? And the last phase is the reconstruction phase, the interpolation phase, in which any group of these t users combine their shares and reconstruct the original polynomial P. And therefore, they find the secret S, which is the symmetric key of an encryption algorithm, a symmetric encryption algorithm. The most popular technique for a polynomial interpolation is the Lagrange interpolation. We will not get into it here, but it's just good to know. Lagrange interpolation, there are also Newton interpolation and a couple of other ones. So this is a schematic example of summary secret sharing. And for example, here the degree of the polynomial is 3. The system has 6 users in total, and only 4 of them are required to construct the secret. So you can see here we agree on a random prime number. The server picks up a secret, right? And the polynomials in FP. Don't worry about this notation. FP is just the set. It's called the finite field, the set of numbers, right? 0, 1, 2 until P minus 1. And A0 is the secret. So this is the polynomial that the server knows, and it distributes the shares into the n users, right? And a random group of 4 users is picked for the interpolation phase. So they combine their 4 shares, the 4 users combine their 4 shares through an interpolation algorithm like Lagrange. They reconstruct the polynomial and therefore the S. So notice that T must be always greater than D. We want 4 shares because there are 4 unknown coefficients that we want to determine. Having less than 4 is not enough to reconstruct the polynomial at all. We want 4 or more of them. Right. So another important thing that we want to talk about before the challenge is the Chinese remainder theorem, which is fundamental in cryptography and has many applications. So let's get started. Suppose we know these numbers: x mod p1, x mod p2, x mod pi. The Chinese remainder theorem states that we can find x mod the product of these numbers, mod p1 times p2 times p3 times pi. However, the Chinese remainder theorem has a strong requirement. If this requirement is not met, the algorithm is likely to fail. This requirement is that pi must all be co-prime pairwise. What does it mean? P1 and P2 must have a greatest common divisor of 1. P1 with Pi in general must have a greatest common divisor of 1. So let's see a couple of applications of the Chinese remainder theorem in cryptography. First of all, the modular square root. Suppose we have a number n, which is a product of 3 numbers, just a product of 3 numbers. It turns out that you cannot directly find the modular square root r of a, right? Because this is equivalent to knowing the prime factors of n. So calculating the modular square root mod n, a composite number, is equivalent to determining the prime factors of n, which is which is actually the problem that RSA is based on. It's a hard problem and computationally feasible to solve for large n. Why is Chinese remainder theorem important here? Suppose you know the prime factors of n. So you know P1, P2, and P3. Then there are efficient algorithms to calculate the modular square root mod P1, mod P2, mod P3. Then, knowing these numbers, these remainders, you can combine these 3 with the Chinese remainder theorem and get the answer mod n. So even though it's impossible to do it directly, you can use the prime factors and combine with Chinese remainder theorem and find them indirectly. But eventually you get the same thing, the same number. Then we talk about an optimization of the RSA crypto system, which is again based on the Chinese remainder theorem. So in RSA, we know that n equals p times q, 2 prime factors, right? The entire security of RSA is based on determining these prime factors. So this RSA variant says that instead of making the computations mod n, we make the computations mod P and mod Q, and then we combine the results with Chinese remainder theorem to get the answer mod N, their product, P times Q. So another application is the Mignot secret sharing. Each share has this form: the secret mod some numbers, M, I. So each user has one of these shares, S mod M1, S mod M2, etc. S mod M1 does not reveal anything about the original S, but if all of them combine their shares with CRT, you can get a solution mod their product. Another important application is the Pollock-Hellman attack, in which you can solve the discrete problem modulo small prime factors of the order of a finite field, either it is elliptic curves or a simple finite field, and then you can combine the computed logarithms with CRT to get a solution modulo the actual order. Enough with the math, let's get into the walkthrough of the challenge. This is the main server that runs the secret sharing algorithm. We're provided with two options. We can get our share, so we can send our x value and get P of x back. So for example, we can send 3 and get P of 3. Actually, by running the challenge, we are greeted with this. We can send our command, which is get share, and by sending, for example, x equals lit, we get P of lit, which is this number, the y, right? We can also request the encrypted flag, but it's not interesting because we assume that AES, which is used to encrypt the flag, is secure. So there's nothing to see here at this point. This is an implementation of the secret sharing algorithm. Let's see an overview of these parameters of the secret sharing. So actually, this is an implementation of the Mignot secret sharing algorithm. And we extract the following parameters: D, which is the degree of the polynomial, 30. So there are 31 coefficients in total. N, which is the group of people that will take part into the secret sharing scheme. In this challenge, the threshold is equal to N. So the threshold is 19.2. The key of AES, the symmetric key of AES, is used as the constant term of the polynomial. So we understand that the goal of the challenge is to reconstruct A0, the secret term of the polynomial. So this is equivalent to reconstructing the entire polynomial. But we notice something. The number of users, the threshold 2, is less than D. But we said that the threshold must be greater than D in order to interpolate the polynomial normally. So this is not the case here, so we cannot normally perform polynomial interpolation. Additionally, we can send only positive values of x that are not larger than 2 to the power of 15. And also, each coefficient of the polynomial, as well as the symmetric key, is 256 bits long. So let's see all of these in action. This is where D is defined, N is defined, bits. This is the key of the IS that is generated. This is the calculation P of x. So this is where substitution happens, and the share is calculated. So let's get into the solution of this challenge, what the user has to do. Recall that the polynomial in this challenge looks like that. K is the secret key that is used to encrypt the flag, and is actually the constant term of the polynomial, right? So let's see what happens when we send our x value to the server. So what happens when we send lit? Basically, when we send lit and reduce the y value, if we reduce this value mod lit, what we get is actually k mod lit. Why? Because this term and this term are all multiples of lit. Why? Something times lit squared, something times lit to the power of 30. All of these mod lit are equal to 0 mod lit, right? So what does this remind to you? So this should remind us of the CRT setup that we looked earlier. Basically, each time we send an X value, we get only 15 bits of information of K. Why? Because X were limited to send X up until 2 to the power of 15. So we're not able to get more information of K with one query. But we have 19 queries in total to make. So the key is 256 bits long. Actually, all the coefficients are 256 bits long. So 256 bits, and we get 15 bits of information each time. So we will need 18 queries in total to get a total of 270 bits of K. This is more than enough, as the actual key is 256 bits. With 18 queries, we recover that many bits, which is more than enough to reconstruct the entire K. But notice that in order for the Chinese remainder theorem to work, we have to submit X values that are co-prime, right? So we get 18 different shares, and we combine them with the Chinese remainder theorem to get a solution mod these X values. Let's move to the solver. So this is the solver. We generate 18 15-bit prime numbers. We use prime numbers because all prime numbers are co-prime with each other, right? So we're guaranteed that all X are co-prime with this line. Then for each of these X, we send our X value, we get our share, and we reduce it mod X. So what reduced keys has here basically is the key reduced mod X. And then we apply the Chinese remainder theorem to recover key. And then we construct the symmetric key as shown in the server, like that. Right, we request the encrypted flag and we decrypt it. So by running this, wait a while, and we actually get the flag. So this is the video. Hope you liked it, and I hope you really have a great time in
Awesome. That is going to do it for our talk from Rasti. Again, that was just an awesome cryptography talk by him. I hope y'all were ready for all that math. I say that being 9 in the morning here is exciting. Great talk. Thank you so much, Rasti, for that talk. Last, but again, certainly not least, we have one more talk coming up after this. Before we get into that, I do want to talk a little bit about the CTF, just to make sure that I go over the details and make sure everyone has that information. As always, I should say thank you for being here. This live stream is related to one of our pillar CTFs. This is for the University CTF. This time it is binary Badlands. That is the theme for it. I'm going to go ahead and link this in chat. This is the CTF page itself. But this is the CTF itself will be live starting tomorrow, December 13th, and it runs through December 15th. So this weekend. Very fun. If you are a university student, be sure to sign up for that. The big thing that we're looking for is a .edu email. So if you have any issues, please reach out to us. But yeah, we'll get you helped. That being said, let's go ahead and move on to our last talk. This one is given by David Forsythe, aka 0xDF. If you haven't read his walkthroughs before, I highly recommend checking it out. I'll link his site in chat here in just a moment, just because they're very detailed and it's a great read just overall. So 0xDF is a principal training architect here at Hack the Box. He's one of the people that is responsible for a lot of the labs, a lot of the review of the different boxes that we have. Incredibly talented guy. I'm excited for this talk just because I know how fiercely intelligent he is. This talk, we'll go ahead and get into it, is Let's Sherlock, an introduction to blue team training. And without further ado, go ahead and take it away, ZeroXTF.
This is OXTF, and today we are getting ready for the 2023 Uni CTF through Hack the Box. It should be a really fun competition, and I hope you all are excited about it and eager to get playing on the challenges. In this talk/demo, we're going to go through my favorite topic, forensics challenges from the last year. I've got two ready, but if the first one takes too long and I don't want to overrun my time, I might just drop down to some general tips of how to prepare and be successful in CTFs like this. So I guess we'll kind of see as we go. With that, let's start with our first challenge we're going to look at today. Forensics challenge from last year called Fake News. All right. I've got here, I'm actually in the normal Hack the Box website as opposed to the CTF platform. And that's because, and it's worth knowing this, the challenges from CTFs like UD CTF and Cyber Apocalypse and even some of the business CTF, they get uploaded to the standard Hack the Box platform and you can try them. You can actually find them if you go into, let me get this big enough that I can get this over here. If you go into tracks and search for like Uni right here. So here's the 2022 University CTF, and you can see here's all the different challenges that are available on the main site from last year's CTF. A lot of them, if not all of them, will come in as retired because they can't be for points. So you will have to have a VIP account to play with them. But if you do, they're there. It's a great resource. So with that said, let's go see. We were going to look at fake news. And shrink this down just so the thing comes here. So we're going to start by reading the prompt and the description. Let's see. So the Magic Informer is our school's newspaper. Our system administrator and teacher, Nick, maintain it. But according to him, his credentials were leaked while sharing his screen to present a course. It is believed that the dark pointy hat got access to the Magic Informer, which they used to host their phishing campaign for freshman people. Given the root folder of the Magic Informer, can you investigate what happened? So we got the download button right here. I'll download them. I've already done that because I can take a minute. We'll come here and I've got the zip. We will unzip it here and give it the password hack the box. And we've unzipped. We now have an HTML folder. And this isn't surprising to me because whenever you have a web server, it's common you'll see var www HTML is the folder it will go in. And so if we go into that folder and take a look, in fact, we do have a bunch of PHP files. So good right there. We know we have a PHP website. We also are going to recognize a lot of WP- files. To me, this is immediately obvious. This is a WordPress website. WordPress is a CMS, content management system. It's incredibly common. It's fairly easy to stand up your own instance and start creating blog posts and content through the admin panel. If you didn't recognize this, what could you do? For one, there's a license here, so we could vim the license file and see right here, WordPress web processing software. That gives us a good hint what we're dealing with. Even if you didn't have that, we have all these WP files. And so if we came here and went to like WP- what was one of these things? Let's just pick one, WP config. If we were to throw that into a search engine, see like, oh, look, it's WordPress documentation over and over again, WordPress documentation. WP beginner, so we can figure out pretty quickly this is a WordPress site. And a lot of hacking is taking something you're not quite sure what it is and figuring out what it is. And then you can get the resources you need to actually hack it or do forensics, etc. So we've got a WordPress website. Awesome. One of the first places I always, when I'm an attacker, when I'm hacking something, when I hack WordPress, I want to look at the plugins. The plugins can be vulnerable to something, so they can. It's often the attack surface that people use to get in. Doesn't seem like that's really the case here because we know he leaked his creds, and so we don't, someone could just log in. But it's a place where people can go to actually get execution. So we'll go into WP content and let's take a look in here. There's a plugins folder. And inside of here, so we have got 2 directories and 2 files. Again, right now to me, I recognize these first 3 are almost always going to be there. They're standard things. But let's say you didn't know that. We can come over here, and we can say, if I can, wow, okay. WordPress, GitHub. See if we can find the source code to WordPress on GitHub. So here's this. Let's see. Repository WordPress. It just assumed I'd be able to do this. Let's see. Here, this looks like maybe this is it. WordPress. Perfect. Okay. So if we go to WordPress, WP content, plugins, and right away we can see hello.php and index.php are just there. Those are the things that come. We can compare those. They're the same as what we have. We can also start to look at, I don't even know how to say this, Akismet. And if we Google for this, we'll see it's a spam protection for websites. Let's see. The other thing, if we search for default, we can see that somewhere in here, let's see, with WordPress. Yeah, here we go. So starting with WordPress 2.0 and later, it actually ships along with WordPress. So that's a standard thing. We don't probably need to dig into it. Could the attacker have modified it some way? Sure, but let's start with this other one, Plugin Manager, because that's certainly new. So here we are in Plugin Manager, and there's two files. We'll take a look at plugin.php. That's just some metadata, nothing interesting there. In fact, let's open this in VS Code so we can take a look. Yes, I'll trust the authors. And let's go to Plugin Manager. And this right away looks very sketchy. Let's see, is it Alt-C? Yeah. So we can see, I'm toggling line wrap on and off, so you can see it's got quite a long line here. And basically it's PHP code, but it's base64 decoding this blob and then evaling it. And eval just means run as PHP code. So that is sketchy, for sure. I want to decode this and see what it is, right? It's going to decode to some PHP code, I think. I could copy and paste that here. I like to do this on a terminal. We can cat plugin manager. We can see it here. Now we want to isolate this stuff right here. So we'll just do grep, in this case on eval, get the line that has eval. And then I'm going to use cut. And what cut's going to do, I'm going to give it a delimiter. In this case, I'm going to give it the delimiter of double quotes like that. And now, so it's going to break it here. So I want this is going to be the first field. This is going to be the second field up to this delimiter. So I'm going to say -F2 to get the second field. Now I've got just that. And now I can base64-D to decode it. And look at that. We've got PHP code. Go up here to the top. I actually again, this is another one that very quickly I recognize this, and I know exactly what this is. But I've been doing this a while and I've played with things before. I'll show you how I recognize it actually. If we go up here and we search for PHP reverse shell, I bet we can find it really quickly. Pentest monkey reverse shell, PHP reverse shell, and we can see right here, there's a bunch of comments at the top, which we didn't have. But then look at this. It's the exact same set limit, version, IP, port, chunk size and stuff. These exact same comments are down here. Demonize ourselves, possible to avoid zombies later. In fact, let's say you didn't know what this was. So I recognized it was a search for PHP reverse shell. If we come in here and just search for that in quotes, we're going to get that shell. We find that shell. So, that's another good hint of like strings like this. When you see things documented in strings that are like pretty unique, like this probably doesn't show up in a lot of other documents on the internet. So it's possible this shell is custom and it's not on the internet. But if it is, let's search for some of these strings and see if it comes up. So what this is a very standard PHP reverse shell. So we can do, this is going to run a PHP reverse shell. It's going to connect to this IP and port. This is useful when you're doing forensics. You're going to want to know this. If this was your company and you found this shell living in your WordPress, you'd want to then take this IP address and port and go look through your firewall logs, any kind of packet captures you have going out, any kind of net flow. You want to know who's been triggering this, what's the attacker's IP, and you want to start to pivot off of that into other data sources you have. Now, in this case, these are probably the defaults. We can actually check that. No, the default's actually 127.0.1. So it is a unique new IP address, but default port 444. But they also actually added an extra variable right here, part 1, and it looks like the start of our flag, HTTP come on. Come on? Yeah, I guess come on. So we found half the flag. And that's about all I'm going to get out of here, actually. Let's see. There's not a lot else here. The rest of this just matches exactly what you'd see in here. Go to the bottom and verify. Yeah. So nothing else too exciting there. Let's go back up to where I'm it's all sorts of Tmux trouble here. Okay. So we will go up Oops, there we are. Okay, so what do we have else? There's something else interesting here to me. We already found, and we can go here and see the default folders in WordPress, right? And there's 3 folders actually: WP admin, WP content, WP includes. I've got 4 folders here, and this one might be kind of hard to see because it's like highlighted in green with blue writing on it, right? But that actually is its own marker. Why is that happening? Well, my terminal is configured, and this is kind of just a default Ubuntu terminal, but so it's very common like this. But it shows this has to do with the permissions, right? So it turns directories blue, files are left white. If I were to set something like set UID, it would turn bright red. In fact, I can show you that. If we touch test, and then if we do change mod 4777 test, you can see how it turns like it's red with a white background. So we don't need that. That was just a demo. So this just has to do with the permissions. And if we do an ls-l, we can see our permissions on these other 3 directories. Oops. Whoa. Let's try that again. We'll go full screen for the sake. Our permissions on the other 3 directories here all are read, write, execute for the owner, but then the group and everybody are just read, execute. But this one is read, write, execute for everybody. Now, is that important? Nah, not really. No, it doesn't make a difference, except it makes this folder stand out as different than the others. And again, that's the trigger. Like, oh, maybe I should check that one out. So let's see what's in there. So we can do WP blogs. And I'm just tapping through and it's autofilling, which tells me that 2022 is the only directory in WP blogs and 11 is the only directory in 2022. So we'll just go in there. And in here we have index.php and styles.css. Open that up again. We can close this previous one. I don't think we need it anymore. And let's take a look at index.php. So we got a web page here. We have an index.html with some stuff going on. Seat, carriage, fingerprint boarding. Might be worth viewing this to see what it looks like. And all right, now this is okay. So I was like, man, this page is finishing up quickly. This is a script, and there's this clearly obfuscated JavaScript here. In fact, take a look at it. It's got a function here. It takes these 2. This is a function there that's defined from starting at this, and I bet you it goes all the way to the bottom. You can see, I bet you it ends right there, and then it actually calls it. So in JavaScript, you can do this thing where you say function, arg1, arg2, stuff in here, and then you can just call it right like that. So that this is going to define the function and then just immediately call it right afterwards. And it's actually doing that without. I'm not. Yeah, that looks like probably is what's happening. Although it's also possible that it's getting picked up here because we need arguments. At the end of the day, unimportant. We got a bunch of obfuscated JavaScript here for sure. So this is definitely sketchy. Now we know from the prompt that they were using the school website or the school newspaper to send out phishing stuff. And this looks like it'd be a great, so send someone to a page on the school newspaper, and maybe that's the phishing. Maybe this is the phishing document. So we could start trying to deobfuscate this JavaScript. And in fact, we're going to probably come back and mess with it a little bit as we get at the end here. But I would rather start with, let's get a feel for what we're dealing with, right? So one thing we can do is we can actually run, if we got PHP in our VM, with a -S. And what that's going to do is say, hey, be a PHP server in this directory. It's kind of like Python -m http.server, where it starts a server in your local directory, except for this one is actually going to serve Python or PHP code, which is nice. So we need to give it a address, so we'll serve on that, and I'm just going to leave the port blank so it serves on 80. We'll do sudo so it does. Invalid address. Maybe we give it a port, and now it goes on 80. Oh, all right. We'll define it, put it on 80. There we go. Now we can come here and we can do 127.0.0.1 80. Oh, not 8,000. I don't know what that is. There we go. Ooh, and we have our ticket to the Magic Express. And something else interesting happened here. So we've got a ticket to the Magic Express. That's cool. That's actually an interesting phishing thing, right? So are we trying to invite someone to come into a thing? Yeah, okay. But in the background, just on loading this page, I downloaded officialinvitation.iso. If we refresh the page, we downloaded officialinvitation1.iso. So somehow that JavaScript must be automatically downloading officialinvitation.iso. So that is interesting. Let's go check that out. So I'm going to actually close this. I don't need this anymore. We'll open up a new terminal window here. We can move, download officialinvitation.iso to here. Just so I don't forget, I'm going to remove official. There we go. And if we run file on official invitation, it is unsurprisingly an ISO file. An ISO is like it's technically it's a disk image. Originally was made to fill up a CD-ROM. So that's what it is. We can mount it. So we'll use the mount command. We're going to need to run as root for that. So we would give it a sudo, or not a sudo, but a sudo. Sudo mount official invitation.iso, and we'll just put it on /mount. That can take any directory. In fact, if we prefer, we could get out of here. We'll see make dir official invitation, and now we can do sudo mount official invitation.iso official invitation. And so it did mount this thing as read only, but that's fine. I don't need to mess with it. So now we can go into official invitation and look around, and we have an executable. This is not a great phishing document, to be honest with you, because I'm not sure. Maybe if I was on a Windows machine, there'd be some sort of thing that tried to download it and then run it. But if you're waiting on somebody to go into their downloads and double click on officialinvitation.iso, I'm not exactly sure what the benefit of that is. On the other hand, there is benefits to using ISOs. And one of them is that Windows has this thing called the mark of the web. And when you download something from the internet, it puts the mark of the web on the file. And that tells Windows that, like, hey, I don't trust this file as much. It came from outside, from potentially suspect places. So just be careful with it and treat it with care. If you download a ISO and then you open up that ISO and pull out officialinvitation.exe, officialinvitation.exe does not get the mark of the web. I don't know if Windows has looked into changing that. Maybe it has recently. I'm not sure. But for a long time, this was a way that attackers were bypassing mark of the web. And that's why you'll see an ISO file like this. Officialinvitation.exe. Let's see, we can run a file. We can run a file on it, and it is a PE 64-bit, PE 32 plus. So that means a 64-bit executable. Same thing here. 8664 is 64-bit. It's a script, meaning that we're not going to find a lot of the variable names and function names and things. It is Windows. It does not say that it's a .NET executable, so I'm not going to be able to use something like .peak or I forgot the one. Now I'm blanking on the old one I used to always love for years. ILSpy or .NET Spy or DNSpy. But I could open this up in Ghidra or something like that. Given that this is an easy rated challenge, before I dive in and start doing that, I want to step back and think about what I might also look for. One thing that's very common I would want to look for is strings. So we can start with strings on officialinvitation.exe, and I'm expecting a fair amount, so I'm going to pipe it into less. And I think we actually found, we just found the flag. You can see parts of it looking here. Here's a part. I'm not sure why it's part 2, but part 4. Here's part 2. It was too good to be true. That looks pretty reliable right there. In fact, we can do something a little simpler here. Let's do a grep on part 2 into less. And we get a pretty good feel here. It shows up a lot. Part 2, it was too good to be true. So that is, in fact, the end of the flag, and we could be done right now. We've got the flag. We're done. If you ever watched any of my content before or read my blogs before, you'll know one of the things I love to do is called Beyond Root. How do I got the flag. What else do I want to do? And not to go on a little rant here, but the value of these CTF challenges is not only do you get to push yourself, but this is a chance for you to experience technology set up in a way that maybe you could set this up in your own lab, but it's been done for you. So use this to learn and understand what's going on. Use this to learn how things work. So just because we got the flag, now in the middle of the competition, I got the flag, maybe I need to put it down, move on. But make yourself a note, come back to this. What are the things we could learn from this? And I've got two things that come to my mind. One, might be interesting to look at this EXE. Now, I actually know this EXE is a Posh C2 beacon. It's a C2 framework, Posh C2. I'm going to leave that as an assignment for the viewer. If you're feeling inspired, go open this in Ghidra, go open this in IDA, understand what it's doing. We know it's C2, so it's probably going to be doing some sort of connections back on a periodic basis to a C2 server. And it's probably going to be getting commands and executing them. Does it have, you could look at the Posh C2 website or documentation to see like, what are the commands it sends? Can you find where it takes those commands and executes them, etc.? So challenge number one. Challenge number two, I'm curious about that JavaScript. We kind of blew past it and we managed to not really need it, but in fact, we'll do that. We'll do a little bit of that right now. Let's see. Come back here and we'll start to look at this. We'll grab this from here to here. Copy, new evil.js. Paste this in. Did I paste? Ooh, did I not like that? Okay, yeah, here we go. And now what we need to do is we really want to find every semicolon. So first of all, unword wrap. It's all one line. Ooh, do we not like? Let's see, Control F. Let's find semicolon and replace with, I always forget exactly how to do this. I think I need to, come here, let's copy that. Place with semicolon, paste. Beautiful, that works. And there's 37 of these, so we will, back here, replace. Let's replace all. Beautiful. I think we got something here. So we got our function here. And a lot of this, again, it just kind of comes down to like, let's just start doing things that make sense. So this looks like a well forever. I like to do that. Try var. Let's do line wrap here. I do Alt Z here to make it line wrap. This is complicated, but I'm not exactly sure what it's doing. We'll come back to that for sure. If that equals that, break. Okay. Else do that stuff. Catch. Try this. And I'm not sure how far I'm going to go in this, honestly, because I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not sure how much fun it is watching me format things, but this is actually how I approach when I get to that deobfuscating stuff. We could throw this in a beautifier, and maybe that's better. Oh, actually, the function was not that long. It was just this stuff right here. We could throw this in a beautifier, and maybe we should do that. But I actually like to do it manually, and the reason I like to do it manually is when I'm going through it manually, I actually start to get a feel for not only am I putting spacing in, but as I'm putting the spacing in, I'm starting to understand what's going on. So like now I have a very clear vision that, okay, this is the function that gets called. And look, there's another function that starts right here. So we have a second function here, and we can start to evaluate, like, what does this function actually do? It takes in these two things, and it is doing some sort of parse int on these things, some sort of math here, and we can figure that out. I'm not going to make you guys sit here and watch me put spacing in and go through this, but work through this. If you spend a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, if you start to learn how things work, it's good for you, right? You'll be better at this the more you do it. You can also take things like this. I don't know if this is going to work. Let's try it. Control, I don't know, inspect, and we'll go to the console, and we will paste it in. Of course, that's not defined. But you can, if you get to little things that are defined, you can start to do that. So you can start to say, okay, well, once I figure out what OX 4A1D D6 is, maybe I then can get the result of what parsing looks like. Well, that's just going to be, but the point of all this is you can use the browser dev console as well when you just test some JavaScript stuff. All right. I've been going on for 25 minutes. I got about 5 minutes left. I have a few thoughts that might be useful for going into a CTF event like this. So the first thing I was going to say is prepare yourself. You're watching this video, so you're already thinking about what can I do ahead of time, what can I do. If you've got a VIP subscription to Hack the Box, go look at last year's challenges. I had them up on the screen earlier. You can not only get the challenges and try them, you can get the write-ups. And so if you're real new to this and this all seems really overwhelming to you, go start reading through those write-ups and figuring out what's going on. Even if you're not new, you can look through, when you get to a challenge, there's going to be a set of tools and a set of technologies that you need to recognize and know about. Now, a lot of doing this stuff is knowing that you're going to run into stuff you don't know and you have to figure out how to search for it. I often tell people my main job is knowing how to Google things. But if you run into an office macro, you're probably going to run into an office macro. And if you do, I say that with no knowledge of what the challenges are, but they've been one in the last many CTFs. If you do, knowing that OLE VBA exists is really useful. It's a great tool for dumping office macros out on a Linux and looking at them. But how are you going to know that? Well, you could spend some time Googling around how to reverse engineer office macros. But if you spend the time now looking through previous write-ups, you will see that tool in use and you can add it to your tool belt. And then when you see an office macro this year, you just go, office macro, I'm going to use OLE VBA. Similarly, are you going to need a Windows VM? For some forensics things, for some, I guess that forensics is probably the main category, but some things you're just going to need Windows to do it. Do you have a Windows VM ready? If you don't have a Windows VM, does someone on your team have a Windows VM? Should you go create a Windows VM right now? You could do it. It doesn't take that long. Go download an ISO from Microsoft and build yourself a VM. You don't have to activate it right now. You can use it for the event. So there are things you can do to prepare. It's worth doing. Next piece of advice. Always read the prompt. I am super guilty of not following this advice, and it has bitten me so many times. The prompt is useful. The prompt is the information the challenge creators want you to have. And there's hints in there, there's clues in there, not always, but often. My gut instinct when I get a challenge is how quickly can I skim through this and figure out what I need to know so I can go get to the actual file they gave me or go get to the thing I'm trying to hack. Resist that urge. Read the prompt. Think about the words. Knowing in this, in the fake news challenge, knowing that we are looking for a phishing site is useful information, and it'll help us guide how we approach the problem. If you're stuck, take a break. You have this feeling, especially when you're racing or you're in an event, where if I stop, I'm going to fall behind. But really, when you've been going through digging into rabbit holes over and over again, if you can walk away for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, take a walk, go think about something that's not hacking. When you come back and sit down and approach something new, your mind's going to go, oh, wait, did you think about this? You're going to get new insights that you wouldn't if you were just forcing yourself down the same paths over and over again. So breaks can be incredibly valuable. Use them. Make yourself take them. And then finally, use your team. Ask questions. Talk to each other. Even if you don't have a team, if you're by yourself, you can still practice the art of asking a good question. And by asking a good question, what I mean is, you're going to explain to somebody who is as smart as you or smarter than you, the challenge you're running into. You want to give them all the information. You want to show them that you've done. You don't want to just show them and be like, hey, I looked at this for 30 seconds. I don't know what to do. What do I do? That's not a good question. But if you can go to them and say hey, so I've got this directory of files, and I think it's a WordPress directory because it's all these WP files, right? So it looks like WordPress to me, and I found a plugin, and the plugin, it looks like a PHP reverse shell, and I found a flag. But then I can't figure out, there's got to be more because there's only half the flag, and I can't really figure out where else to look. And these are the things I've tried, but it hasn't worked. And I've gone through the source code on GitHub to see the default plugins, and I haven't, maybe I could use that to look for what the default folders are in the root. And the point of that little exercise is, a lot of times if you make yourself type things out, you make yourself ask a really detailed question saying everything you've tried so far and where you plan to go next and where you failed and where you hit walls, you'll catch yourself and you'll say, wait, I didn't actually do this. Maybe I should go do this. I regularly get in the habit of, when I get stuck trying to solve something, pulling up a friend on Discord and just, even if I have no plans on asking, even if I know they're not around, start pretending to ask the question. And by the time I get through typing out the question, usually 3 out of 4 times, I have found myself going, oh, I haven't tried this. I better go try that first. And don't even need to send the question. I can just then go try things. But having to frame things, they call this rubber duck debugging. It's a technique programmers use, but it works in hacking too. And it can just be so valuable. So, I think those are my tips. I hope you all have fun this year and learn something. And yeah.
Awesome. That does it for our talks this year. First and foremost, thank you everyone who's here at the end for tuning in and watching such awesome talks. Again, thank you to everyone, all my awesome colleagues who have submitted those. Do note that those talks, they are going to be uploaded after the fact on YouTube. This live stream as well will be uploaded on YouTube later. Pardon my camera doing something weird. We'll get through the end of this. The CTF itself, I'm going to go ahead and link this in chat again, just so that we have it. That is the CTF page. Remember, the actual CTF starts tomorrow, December 13th, and runs through December 15th. So it's a this weekend thing. With this being a University CTF, this is really for students. If you have a .edu email, you can just apply with that. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. The big thing is, if you do have any questions, make sure you explain what's going on, just so it's a little bit easier for us to help you. But yeah, otherwise, be sure to check that out. Have some fun this weekend. Thank you, as always, everyone who tuned in for this awesome live stream. It's always been a pleasure, especially with our live talk right at the beginning. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much.